You're listening to What's Your Heart Problem podcast, the show that brings you healthy advice and perspectives on your heart relationships with your host, Dr. Holder. She has 20 plus years in the field of helping others as a dedicated therapist. She is a coach, speaker, a loving mother, and wife. Dr. Holder is here to help you get to the heart of the matter. Now, without any further ado, please welcome your host, Dr. Holder.
Good day, good day, good day, good day, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. This is your What's Your Heart Problem podcast with your host, Dr. Holder. Thank you for joining us today. I want to give a thank you to our sponsor, Higher Life Pathways Counseling Services, where counseling is provided to individuals, couples, and families. Give them a call or text them at 571-946-8115 or email them at info@higherlifepathways.com to schedule an appointment. On today's podcast, I just wanted to review kind of the year. This is going to be the last episode for the year as well as for the season. This is going to be our rounding out pod for the season, and just kind of I'm just going to be reviewing the past pods I've been doing for this season, this year, and then I want to jump into promises and keeping your word. So I remember, and just my feelings on like doing this podcast, because I didn't know I was going to do a podcast. I knew that I wanted to share information, resources to others, but I just didn't know how to go about doing that. And so as I am here and as I am going forward, I'm so glad that I took the jump to just start the podcast and share information to others that would not necessarily come see me or know who I am. But you know, hey, we have YouTube, we have Apple, we have various versions of we have various versions of different, what's the word I'm looking for? We have various outlets, various ways of reaching people now. So digitally, virtually. And so I started the podcast with the intent of sharing information, and I believe I did my goal, and I am definitely even more ready for season 2, which I'll be starting next year, and going forward with just sharing information, getting to the heart of the matter with that information, with the resources that I do give and talk about in this podcast. So I just wanted to review a little bit as to like kind of what I have been doing, right? So the first pod really was an intro, and then I started speaking about your relationship with yourself and how important, you knowing you first before getting into any kind of relationship is really good for your mental health. Know you. And then I jumped into relationship pull-ups, how to speak to your partner, how to speak to, one that loves you, how to speak to parents, how to speak to others, how to get people to understand how to treat you in the relationship pull-ups. And then we went into boundaries and the differences between what a boundary is versus what you think it could be versus what someone else may think it is, and just talking about that and holding your boundary, and that's not being a bad thing, and that's not a bad thing. Then I went into talking about forgiving of others, and that was a lot. I got a lot of not a lot, but I got some comments on that, but as well, that was one of my highest with views with my pod. So I realized a lot of people have and are still holding on to issues from the past that's holding them back. So I spoke about forgiving others in that pod. And then I discussed negotiating and how, you don't have to argue with everyone, just negotiate. I think a lot of people fail, or not fail, but they don't utilize that resource of negotiating. So I spoke a little bit about that. And then I went into selfful versus selfish and the differences, because people really think that when they're being self-full, they're being selfish, and that's not the case. So I kind of identified like how important to know the difference and to be self-full so that you can be better for you and others. Then I went into fear. Do you make rash choices because of fear? I went into how not to do that and how that could really compromise a lot in your life if you do that. Then I spoke about I had my first guest, Miss Elaine Landy. We spoke about choosing health, healthy relationships, health with your body, just generally what it is that you should be doing, and what healthy relationships, or a relationship looks like, being healthy and then successful. Then we went into financial health with Chris Holder, and he shared financial tips on how to not relate, but how to handle your money where money is coming into you, not running from you. And then I spoke about sexual dumping. And if you felt that you were being sexually dumped on in your sexuality, in your life, in your sexual relationship. And so I spoke about that. And then I went into anger. I spoke about your growth. I just really went into various topics like that to kind of give the framework and the idea that, hey, check in with you. You are important. Everyone else is good, but you have to be okay as well. And so my podcast and my pods really went into the hearts of the matter, the heart of the matter with these topics, so that you gain information, resources, just having an idea of how to kind of handle yourself first, and then going into other parts of your life. So I just wanted to review that, and as I review it, I just think how like, wow, I went through all of that. I actually did a podcast, and I went through those things those topics that are very, very important. And I'm so glad that I was able to take the step and jump and do this. And I'm very glad that I did, because I know I reached a couple of people that were able to hear what I was saying and understand and maybe grow from what I was doing. So good, pat my back, good for me. So today I wanted to get into keeping your word, keeping your promises. Have you been doing that for yourself and for others? And so the first thing I ask, what does keeping a promise, what does keeping your word mean to you? What does it mean when you're in a relationship? What does it mean when you are in relationships, friendships, work relationships? Like, what does keeping your word, what does keeping promises mean? And so I'll start with self. A lot of people don't keep promises to themselves. They say they're going to do something and then they don't. And so, do you have a history of lying to yourself? Do you have a history of not keeping what you said was important to yourself? Because if you have a struggle with that, 8 or 9 out of 10 times you'll have a struggle doing that for others as well. I would even say that that's for some people. There are others that actually don't keep promises to themselves and hold other people in higher regard and keep promises to those people and not themselves. So I'm speaking to those groups of people today. if you say something that you're going to do and for yourself and you don't keep it, do you understand that you're actually lying to yourself? And so that's one. And if you make promises to others at the expense of yourself, you're harming yourself. So understand that, and it goes back to all I've been saying this past year, you have to be in good standing with you so you can be happy, joyous, loving for you. So that when you're doing that for yourself, you can do that towards others. And so when you are able to hold your own promise to you, you would be in a better and healthier position of holding that promise for others as well. So, what does that look like? Let's say that you want it to be a better, let's say you want to improve on your reading. Just an example. It could be anything. It could be working out. It could be, getting off social media. It could be basically you're trying to you're trying to have a healthy habit. You're trying to make sure that you develop a healthy habit for the improvement of you. And let's say you wanted to read better. You say, okay, I'm going to read at least one book or maybe two books a week or one book a week. Let's keep it. And you begin with that. You write it down. I'm going to do one book a week. And the week passes and you're not holding yourself accountable. You didn't do it. And then you say, well, I'm going to do it again for the next week. And you don't do it. It's a very small example, but what I'm saying is that if you keep that up, what ends up happening is you don't get it done. Let's say it's let's say you wanted to do it start in July, and we are in November now and nothing gets done. You have to actually hold yourself to some kind of standard where you begin doing that, or at least change the goal where you're doing something else and you actually get those things done. And so holding a promise to yourself, and implementing it, is very important for the health and your mental health, and just for you to feel good about you. So very important that if you do have or hold yourself to a standard and say, okay, or you want to do this for yourself, one thing, an element for yourself, one big thing is holding yourself accountable. Having a friend hold you accountable. Hey, did you read that book? Hey, did you read that book? I never forgot. I years ago I met this wonderful lady, one of my friends now, one of my girlfriends, and she was already an author, and I was very impressed because I'm like, that's great. I mean, to sit and write a book, it takes work. And I remember we were talking, and the type of person I am, I share experiences, I share testimonies, I just share good things that's happening with me and just real things that's happening with me. And I remember her saying, so when are you gonna write that book? And that was the first time anyone has ever told me that. And I'm like, what do you mean write a book? What? And she said, there are people waiting on your book. And I would even go so far as to say there are people waiting on you to do something. And that put something within me to realize that, wow, I never thought of it that way. I never thought that my story or my examples of my life would help anyone. I never thought of me helping someone in my personal experience. But I learned that it does help people. It's like, wow, you went through that. Oh, you overcame that. Oh, wow. And it encourages others. And so it took me a minute. But when I finally, um, realized that maybe I should be writing this book or a couple books or so, I started putting a plan together, outlining a plan together I Googled, like, how do you even start this whole writing a book thing? And I Googled and I researched about, hey, put ideas out there. What are you trying to write about? What's important for you? What really gets you going where it'll help others? What's going to be helpful for you so that you're able to, continue what it is that you're trying to do, right? Are you helping people? How are you helping people? How are you guiding? How are you figuring out what you're going to be doing? What are you doing? How is this book going to help people? How is this book going to help people? Really, that's really the main line. And I figured out, I did a blank paper. I did a circle, and I put in a couple topics that I might be interested in. And then I just started, I think they call it, is it mapping they call it? I don't recall the term, but basically it's where you just dump all your ideas of what you're thinking, all of it just on a blank piece of paper, and then kind of circling like, what is it that really gravitate to you. And so I started doing that, and I noticed that from doing that I was able to outline like kind of what the book My current book that I actually published last year, graph out kind of like what it is that what I want to share with people, what's important for people to know, what they need, and I went from there, and so I was able to research, set a plan out, set some goals out, and definitely focus in on a deadline, gave myself a deadline, and I was able to complete it. That promise or that word I made to myself of, hey, I can do this, I want to do this, came to fruition. But you got to put those goals in there. You got to put that deadline in there. And you have to have accountability, right, around you to do so if you're not able to do it on your own. Now, the second part, when you don't hold your own word, but you're doing that for someone else or others, they're benefiting, but you're not. Because I bet that if you're that type of person, there's also some resentment and some passive aggression within you, because you're seeing you helping others, um, you're seeing them succeed, you're seeing them, you know doing them, and being really 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 good at it and excellent because of what you've helped them with, and you're still stuck where you are. And so I want you to ask yourself, the resentment you're feeling, is it because you're not seeing the same results in your life? And the answer is probably yes. If the answer is yes, I would suggest to you, what are some things that you keep on pushing back because of others? What are some things that you are not doing because of others? Write that down. Write that down. And see if you can start working on those things. Now, if you're not able to do that on your own, I would recommend seeking a therapist, a coach, depending on the factors you're dealing with, to just help you get that boost to go to the next level. Like what's blocking you, right, from you really advancing and flowing and growing? Well, why are you hiding behind this person that you're helping to go further? Why aren't you going further? So I would just recommend you checking in with yourself, on the various things and avenues that you need to do so that you are feeling like you're going somewhere, you're doing something. Um, it's really sad when you go for others and you don't go for yourself. I want you to go for you. And again, that's not being selfish, that's putting you first, whereby you're actually happy about what you're doing, what you're into. You're not just um, helping someone else grow and you're not growing. Like, there has to be something within you, which I know there is, that say, you know what, if I, with my skill set, can help this person build and grow and they're successful, I can do the same for me as well, because my skill set helped that person. So why can't the same skill set help me too? So I want you to look at it like that and not feel guilty, for considering yourself, and being successful instead of feeling stuck. That's the biggest thing. Because when you feel stuck, you feel hopeless. You feel like there's no path for you, right? And that's not the case. As long as you're alive, as long as you're breathing, there's so many things that you can do to go forward and to grow and advance, right? However, you have to be the one to realize that. So, like I said, today really was like a follow up pod, but really a pod to just encourage you that, grow, right? Help others, be there for people, sure, but make sure that the same energy that you're doing that for others, do that for yourself first. Because I tell you, especially if you're an employee, especially if you're doing things for others and you're working in partnership with others, like your energy shifts and changes when you feel good inside because you're doing something for you, right? It helps you to become a better partner, a better coworker, employee. It just makes it better for you in your mental space to just be a happier, joyous person when there are things that there are things that you're being fulfilled with within yourself and going forward. So I just wanted to leave that with you and wish you a Merry Christmas and Merry holidays, happy holidays, and I just want you to know that you have more power within you than you think. You can do so much more than you're doing right now. If you do and you are feeling those feelings like I discussed earlier in the pod about resentment and feeling kind of low about things, you can change that. And just know, and I've said this previously, I'm a therapist. I practice is Higher Life Pathways Counseling Services, and I'm with other clinicians where we're here to help. We're here to help guide you and unblock and help you unblock things that otherwise you'd be free to go if you didn't have those things blocked. So we can help you to separate and we can help you to heal from things that are pretty much blocking you from going forward. So this is Dr. Holder, and I wish you the best this year for the rest of this year. And I just know that all will work out well as you go forward in health and strength. And I really wish everyone here, health, wealth, strength, joy, peace, all the things. So thank you for listening, and I will see you guys next year.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of What's Your Heart Problem podcast. If you're enjoying the show or found value in what you've heard today, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again next time in the next episode of What's Your Heart Problem podcast. See you then.